High 1 mile.
Well, welcome to Cockpit Conversations. This is the series where we meet inspirational people and put them on the air, in the air.
Ooh.
Did you like that?
Very good.
And my guest today is Julie Kent MBE. Now, I was going to say you're a real go-getter, but actually you're a real go-giver. So we'll get to that in a minute. But I know you do your own podcast, and on that podcast you do some quick-fire questions.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do it a little bit different with you, okay? So I'm going to ask you either or. Okay, so my first question to you is Marmite or Marmalade?
Oh, neither.
Really?
No, I don't like either.
Oh, wow. Well, you must be
Sorry.
quite strange then. So it's jam for you then, is it?
Yes, I love jam.
Okay, all right. Next one then. Wellies or heels?
Heels.
Heels?
Definitely, yeah.
You're not a country welly person?
Not really, no. When we lived in school, and we're going to fly over school, you know, it was really big and there are some woods and things, so when the children were little, but I think my wellies have faded without me wearing them very much. I brought some bright pink hunters because they look really cool, yeah, but they actually faded, being by the back door that was glass, more than I wore them really.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, the next one is quite relevant as well because you're a musician as well, which we'll get to again, but classical or pop music?
Both really.
Yeah.
Obviously pop music I like and that's what I perform now. Classical is what I trained when I was at school, but then I went to Leeds and did a degree in jazz and light music, so yeah. The thing is, if you play the flute or something, you spend most of your time sat there counting hundreds of bars rest just to come in with a little do-do-do-do-do, and that's it. So
but pop music's better to play, but you need that, because one of my favourite musicians is Elton John, and he was classically trained, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So it's always good to know. Well, we're heading off to Gloucestershire, so why is that area special to you?
Well, I was born in Gloucester, and in a little terraced house off the A38, that's the Bristol Road, and then lived there until I was 18 and went to Leeds to the music college, and then lived in Scarborough for a bit, and then came back and just retired from school, which is Cheltenham, and lived there for 20 years. And most people, there's a big divide, even though there's this, we call it the Golden Valley Bypass, and it's about 6 miles long. And there's quite a big divide between the people that live in Gloucester one end and the people that live in Cheltenham the other end. Because Cheltenham is a regency town, and there's a bit of snobbery about living in Cheltenham. And my husband's from Cheltenham. So he loved living in school for 20 years, living in Cheltenham. Not many people tend to move back to Gloucester, which is what we've done. And I love being back in Gloucester, because I suppose it's where I was born, and just the city is really sad, just like most, you know, Cheltenham is full of empty shops, but Gloucester is a bit the same. Although Gloucester has built, they call it Gloucester Quay, and we might see that. And that's around the docks area, and that's amazing and really popular now, probably to the detriment of the city. But it's got the cathedral, and it's got a really good rugby team. So there's lots going on for Gloucester, but you know, people still think it's. And if you plonk your house in Gloucester in Cheltenham, it would probably cost you, you know, 400,000 more.
Cost you double, yeah, it's crazy. So you mentioned going to university to study music. Was music something that you always wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, to start with, I thought I'd be a music teacher, and then went to Leeds and started playing, and got some gigs, and just started playing. And so when I left, that's all I did. And over the years, you know, played in all different bands, jazz quartets, big soul bands, party bands. But now really do most of it on my own. So I got backing tracks and I go out on my own, and I can do anything that from jazz really to, you know, pop music, like a bit of Fleetwood Mac and Blondie and all that sort of stuff.
And I've heard you do the classic Baker Street.
Yeah, you've obviously been on my website.
Yeah, because the sax solo in Baker Street is classic. It's
famous,
classical, isn't it?
You know, if you walk into a place and set up a saxophone, they always say, "Do you do Baker Street?"
Yeah, I bet.
But the other one that's really good is You know Hazel O'Connor, Will You? Do you know that one?
Yeah,
That's got a great sax solo on the end. So my husband really likes that one. So yeah, that's a good one to do.
So who's your musical hero or heroine?
I don't know really. That's really difficult. I mean, I was really into Sade years ago. Sax players, Dan Getz I liked years ago, and Kenny G, and you know all those sorts of people. But not one, you know, there's so much good music around, that's the thing.
I was in a bar the other day that was playing some Sade, and it's almost like timeless. It's really seems current still.
Yeah, and she didn't really have that many hits,
no.
but still really well known, isn't it?
She was a smooth operator though, wasn't she?
Yeah, very good, very good.
So we're going to Gloucester because that's where your school was. You talked about school. How did you get into teaching then in the first place, if music was your real passion?
When I moved back to Gloucester and became a bit more sensible, and if you want to get married and settle down, have children, then really teaching is the thing, because it's, you know, money coming in all the time, and I really enjoyed it. And I used to go to a different school every day and teach the saxophone, and then did that at the school I was at, and then they needed a house mistress, and so I was offered that job, and we moved into school, and so it was, you know, full on 24/7, and then I couldn't really play unless it was in the school holidays. So so I just, you know, not fell into it, because I had thought, you know, years ago that's what I'd want to do, but and it was amazing. It was amazing to spend 20 years in a boarding house with 60 teenage girls.
Yeah, you must have had some funny stories while you were doing that.
Yeah, it was. We had some really good times. I used to like to do some crazy things for them to remember, really. But I think people our age that went to boarding school, it was they didn't always want to go, and it wasn't always a great time. And I wanted them in 20 years to tell their children what a great time they had. So hopefully they will do that with all the crazy things we do.
Did you get girls that were just so homesick they didn't like it being at the boarding school? How did you deal with that?
Oh dear, I used to tell the mums not to ring them, because mums ringing them wasn't really helpful, and just tried to distract them. And actually, quite often once they got on with their day, they were fine, but it used to be night times or first thing in the morning. And if mums phoned them then, that was really difficult. And they would cry and cry and cry. And it was difficult because, you know, they were feeling a loss of not having their mum and everything. So, you know, tried to be the sort of surrogate mum as much as possible, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So you got your mum to hundreds of kids then.
Yeah.
The reason that you got your MBE was for your fundraising, but you entered that by sort of tragic circumstances, didn't you, really? By losing your own child, which is... I can't imagine what that must feel like.
No, in fact, I was talking to a WI group yesterday, and I said I don't think there is anything worse than losing your own child, really. And so it's quite common for people to start a charity in their name, which is what we did, because we didn't have any other children at the time. So
how important was that process of having the charity in her name to get you through that?
It just felt like something positive was coming out of something so negative.
Yeah.
And that made us feel good to think that we were helping other people, really.
What's the process of getting an MBE? Because it's always fascinated me how people get OBEs and MBEs and that sort of thing.
Well, someone, a friend of mine, I didn't know at the time, obviously, put me forward, and they just found out lots of things about me and sent in loads of information. She really got loads of detail and lots of letters from people. Absolutely amazing, really. And and sent it all off, and it was over 18 months, 2 years before she heard anything.
Right. And you actually get to hear that you're going to get an MBE before you can tell everybody else, don't you?
You do, normally about 10 days before, but in our case, because of COVID, I was told at the beginning of June, and we were told we wouldn't be able to say anything until autumn.
Right.
And autumn, we didn't really know when autumn was. So, it was in the end, it was 4 months. We will go at some time, but I still think they're quite behind. I actually feel really sad.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Welcome to Cockpit Conversations Part 2. As you can probably tell, we're back on the ground because Julie wasn't feeling too good. I've broken another one.
Oh, God.
Not an aeroplane this time, but a person.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I really am.
So many people are like it. It's the movement, and I just mentioned these noise-cancelling headsets. I think that sometimes upsets the equilibrium. But we can be more relaxed now. But the only thing is, you didn't get to see your beloved Gloucester.
No, which I did say how much I loved Gloucester. I don't know if you've ever seen a rugby match that Gloucester play, and the whole crowd, they call it the shed, and they go Gloucester. And if you get off a train in Gloucester, they will say Gloucester, this is Gloucester. And my parents have got a Gloucester accent, my sisters have, and I did, but I think all those years in Cheltenham, you say, they brushed it out of me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep hold of my Cheltenham accent.
Well, I'm not sure where we got to before you started feeling a little bit queasy, so I'm not sure we got the best out of you. But we were talking about your charity work and how that came about with the loss of your daughter, and how important that was to do that, having such a big loss in your life, how important that was to feed it into something positive. Yeah,
and I think probably more so because we didn't have any other children at the time, and so she was our first child, and like I said, you know, you want something good to come out of it. So raising money for other children in Gloucestershire that had cancer just felt like you were doing something that was going to make a difference to other people, really. From the time we found out she had the tumour, the time she died was about 6 months, and we were in and out of hospital most of that time. Excuse me. And both hospitals approached us and said, would we give some money? So we gave 50,000 to Bristol and 50,000 to Gloucester, and both had wards in her name. And I'm actually vice chairman of Pied Piper now, and I couldn't actually go on the ward when we first opened it. I just couldn't go in and see children without any hair, you know, her age or whatever. And whereas now I go on, and we're trying to do a kitchen at the moment for the parents. And I am really proud, you know, when I go on the children's ward and then I see it, Julie Kent MBE.
Yeah.
So it's something positive.
Yeah. You're not the first person I've met who's done that. So it is incredibly brave, but it's obviously part of the healing process for you as well.
Yeah. It got to the point. We then had a son. So a couple of years after she died, we had our son, and 3 years later we had our daughter, and then we still had the charity at that time, and it was quite difficult to have big events, you know, and we'd have this amazing big picture of her on the screen because that would get more money in the auction, and I just felt that it was time to close it, really.
Yeah.
And concentrate on the 2 children we had, and to help us move on. I don't think we were really moving on by doing that. I think we were doing something positive, but to move on, you need time, and if you're constantly putting great big pictures of her everywhere, don't you think that makes it very easy to move on? And so we decided to close the charity, and again I think that's a difficult thing because you're doing it to keep her name sort of alive, but we had the wards, and I just felt that it was time to close it, and so we did.
Yeah. But you're still very much a fan of a local charity, apart from rather than national charities, yeah?
Oh, I get on my soapbox about it, in fact. My husband tells me off about it. Really, because, you know, I go around to companies all the time and try and talk them into having us as Charity of the Year. Not just Pied Piper, I'm also chairman of Cheltenham Open Door and Goals Beyond Grass. All 3 local charities, and when I'm talking to businesses, I you know, for them to get together, have a race night, raise £1,000. If you send that £1,000 to a big charity, you've got no idea where it goes, really. Whereas as soon as a business takes us on, I say, right, come to the children's centre and we'll show you around, or we'll take you to one of the special schools. We've got 12 SEND schools in Gloucestershire, and we're quite happy to take them there and show them a sensory room, or show them special beds, you know, that really severely disabled children can lie in, and, you know, and say, right, if you want to raise 3,000, this is what it's going to buy. And then they go back, and it helps them tell the team, right, this is what we're going to buy. And then I've known companies have even put pictures of what they're going to buy, so everyone knows what they're aiming at. And I just think it's just really important to see where your money is going to go.
also great for the company, a local company, to engage with the local community as well.
Absolutely.
And you're a big advocate of charity fundraising. You say it's actually good for you to give.
The power of giving, yeah.
You do talks on this.
I do.
Yeah.
I was doing one yesterday actually to the WI in Cornwall. You get a good feeling from doing that, I would say. And by doing something for other people, even if it's small, even if it's helping a lady off the bus with her shopping or whatever, it gives you a good feeling. And I say most businesses are looking for a win-win situation. Well, giving is a win-win situation because the person that you're giving something to or helping or volunteering for, they're getting a good feeling as well. So you're both getting a good feeling. It's just a win-win. And there's research that shows, that giving is really good for your mental health, your well-being. It's sort of no-brainer.
Well, I know you were a fan of quotes when you were at school with your girls. What have you got? Any famous favourite quotes that you can give us that's life inspirational?
Well,
apart from not going flying with me, obviously, which is your new quote.
Oh no, not at all. Lots of them. There's lots of really quite well-known ones, but I kind of made up my own now.
Oh, go on then.
Yeah, well, don't be a go-getter, be a
Go-giver, yeah.
And the other one...
I was trying to pass that off as mine, you see, but you spoiled
sorry, yeah. There's a really good book actually called The Go-Giver. It's worth reading. But mine is sort of give to charity, give your time, give yourself. And I really mean, it's not all about money. So if you can't give money, that's absolutely fine. But everyone can offer to do someone shopping or, at the moment we've got ladies knitting little turtles. So that, that doesn't involve money. We'll even give ladies the wool. And it's just about giving, just giving in general.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think giving time is actually a much better feeling than just giving money.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things I've found.
Because you actually you take part in something.
Yeah.
You see the smile on someone's face, and they're really grateful, and that's fine. You don't have to feel guilty about that either, because the other person is gaining.
Yeah, sure. It's been fascinating to meet you. I'm sorry that I made you sick. I do that to a lot of women without even going in the air, to be honest with you. So,
it really was nothing to do with Mike's flying. It was completely, I think, the motion of going up and down, and. Hannah said, come back and try it again. And I went, no, I think really. And we didn't even get to Gloucester, which is really sad. And look what a calm day it is as
beautiful.
well.
It must be my flying.
Oh, and now I'm going to have to put it all over my social media that actually I didn't make it.
Oh well. Well, it's been fascinating meeting you all the same, and it's been a laugh, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been a laugh.
And good luck with your continued charity fundraising, and when you get to receive your award at St James Palace or Buckingham Palace, wherever it might be, that will be a memorable day. So
hopefully.
Perhaps tell us about that when you come back.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Pleasure, thank you.
As Julie didn't get to overfly Gloucester, on my next trip I made a bit of a detour and flew over some of the places she wanted to see from the air. Hopefully this won't have the same effect of making her sick. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so we can let you know where we're heading off to next and who we're going to meet. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Cockpit Conversations, and thanks for watching.